Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Halmstad in Halland County here in Sweden, and this will be another new brewery who I have never tried anything from, so I'm quite excited to try this one, and I always enjoy introducing you guys to the new and smaller Swedish breweries. So for the first time we are going to go to Halmstad Brygghus and we're having a taste of a beer from their prototype range. This one was only very recently released, so this is the prototype number 2 and it's called the Promenad Porter. It comes in at 5.5% ABV, and as the name suggests, it is a porter style beer. So really looking forward to this one. There's quite a few, there seems to be more and more porters and Schwarzbiers and stuff like that making their way out in Sweden just now, and that's one of the really cool things actually about the Swedish craft beer scene, is that you always seem to get a really good variety of styles, and we always seem to get new releases as well every month through the local and small assortments in Systembolaget. This one in particular was released on the 1st of April 2019, and I ordered it into my local shop. So really looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Halmstad Brygghus. Very first encounter with this brewery, as I was saying. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Halmstad Brygghus then. So Halmstad Brygghus were founded back in 2013 by Daniel Eriksson and his friend Andreas Forsberg. But Daniel had worked at Carlsberg in Falkenberg for around 24 years, and for his last few years there he was working on experimental brews, and after a while he really felt that he was tired of making the same old beer and that he wanted to be a bit more creative and make his own stuff. So he owns the company together with his friend Andreas Forsberg, who I mentioned earlier, and they'd known each other since university, and the pair had actually homebrewed for quite a number of years at Daniel's house. But since the beginning the brewery has been based in the Slotsmøllen part of Halmstad, which is kind of to the north of the city a little bit. But in 2015 Daniel decided that he would invest fully in his new project, and they were brewing over 100,000 litres of beer by 2017. I think it was around 130,000 litres of beer that they brewed in 2017. But they expanded further throughout that year to have a full capacity of 200,000 litres of beer, and then Daniel later went to work for the Finnish company Viking Malt, because they took over Svenska Malt, from what I understand, and now had operations throughout Sweden. But they also recently invested in a tasting room at the brewery, and they now offer tours and things like that as well, and they have a German brewer called Daniel Mikut as well, who is dealing with the daily kind of brewing operations. So they are a fairly kind of full-time operation, these guys now, but one of the founders of course works for a malting company as well, so I guess it's a kind of good connection there. So you are getting some traditional Swedish malt in this one, which is kind of cool. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery just now. That was all I was really able to find about the brewery actually. For a brewery who've been around for around 5 or 6 years now, they do have a fairly impressive assortment of beers. They had about 10 or so in their core range when I checked it out earlier on, and this is the second one that they've released from their prototype range as well. The other one was a Blood Orange Session IPA from what I remember. But an interesting brewery this one. It's one that I'll keep an eye on in the future going forward, but like I say, very cool to try my first beer from these guys. But if you want to learn a little bit more, of course you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and that will keep you up to date with all the latest goings on, the latest beer releases and stuff like that. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So this one is a 5.5% porter beer, as the name suggests. It's hot with Magnum and Hallertau hops, I believe both from Germany of course. Hallertau Mittelfrüh to be precise, the ones that are taken from mid-spring. And it's got a malt base of Pilsner, Caramel and Carafa malts, and it's brewed as part of their prototype series, as I mentioned, and a second one in that, and it was released on the 1st of April 2019. So yeah, we can get rid of the brewery notes now, and we can focus on the tasting section of the video. So I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork of this one then. Not too much to see on this, just fairly kind of simple. Their prototype beers tend to have slightly different labels from the other ones. The artwork on the other beers actually is quite nice, but there you can see, there is the Halmstad Brygghus symbol up there, and of course I do like it that they have their own bottle caps as well, which is always a very, very nice touch. But yeah, interesting looking beer. This one has one of these little QR code things on the side here, which is pretty cool. But yeah, without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. This beer actually, that's surprising. It says this beer is best before the 14th of January 2029, so at 5.5%. I don't know if you really could age this for 10 years, to be honest. That would be, to be honest, I think this beer would oxidise in that time. At 5.5%, I don't think you could age this for 10 years. If it was maybe higher, like 10% or something like that, like an Imperial Porter, you might get away with it, but when it's that low in alcohol, the chances are, I severely doubt that you could age it for 10 years. Maybe 2 or 3, 4 or 5 at a push, but 10 years I'm really not sure about. But yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect from a porter beer, this guy has poured a really dark kind of ebony rosewood colour. It actually smells kind of sweet and chocolatey when you open it up. But if I hold this beer up to the light, it is actually a really dark ruby colour, this one. It actually looks very, very nice. There's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say, medium beige head on this one. It's maybe got a little bit of a kind of fawny colour to it as well. But yeah, as I say, the surprising thing about this beer, you can see if you hold this one up to the light, and I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see that on the camera, it is actually crystal clear. It's just very, very dark and very ruby. You can see a little bit of the, where's my finger, I'm just looking at the camera control, you can see a little bit of that ruby edge just down here actually. But yeah, it's a really dark ruby colour, this one, but it comes across as a sort of dark kind of ebony rosewood. But you know, it looks very nice. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, nothing overly surprising about this one in terms of its appearance when you consider that it is a porter beer. So let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. Yeah, this actually smells really nice. The first thing you notice about this beer is just how smooth the malt is actually. Yeah, so it's got a lovely, almost kind of, it smells like it's got a sort of bready, sort of wheaty kind of base to it, which is really, really nice. It's almost like a kind of dusty, chocolatey aroma that you get out of this one, but it is quite sweet at the same time. There's a little touch of brown sugar in there, definitely. A little bit of a slightly toasted kind of caramel note to the beer here. But yeah, I really like how everything goes together in this one. It's got a really nicely blended aroma, that lovely kind of yeah, lovely sort of chocolatey, roasty base to it with some sweet, you know, the chocolate, as I say, it's kind of almost like a kind of, it almost smells like you stick your head in a tub of hot chocolate powder actually. Yeah, I really like the aroma of this one. I could sit and smell this all day actually. So, powdery chocolate, it almost smells like it's a little touch smoky or something like that. It has a little bit of an almost smoky edge to it, although they haven't used smoked malt in this one from what I gather. But it does have just a little teeny touch of a smoky note in it. But yeah, powdery chocolate, a little bit of roasted black malt in there, some nice brown sugary qualities as well. Yeah, and as I say, it's maybe got a little touch of a kind of nutty note in there as well, so just be aware of that. On the hoppy side of things, you get a little bit of that nice earthiness in there, you know, with the German noble hops such as Hallertau, you get a little touch of a slightly sweet earthiness. You can pick up that typical floral and grassy, that noble hoppy note out of this one. It's just nice and sort of, it's not subtle, it's not, maybe subtle isn't the right word, but it's for me it's a little bit nostalgic, of course, because I used to live in Germany and absolutely loved German beers. So that's one of the unusual things about this beer actually. It's an English style beer that's brewed with German hops, so that's quite an interesting point about this one. But yeah, I like how this goes together. In terms of fruitiness, You can pick up, there is a little bit of a kind of raisiny note to this one. You can pick up that there's a little bit of a rich raisiny plummy note to it, but when you take it in from a little bit further back, I think it's a little bit more sort of figgy and kind of candied red fruity esters that you get out of this one. But you know, overall it is quite a nice beer, that, and I really like how everything goes together. The aroma of this is really nice, so I really hope that the flavour lives up to it with this one. So we'll see how we get on. Let's have a taste of this beer then. So this one is the Promenad Porter, the prototype number 2 from Halmstad Brygghus in Halmstad in Halland County here in Sweden. Coming in at 5.5%. Let's give this one a try and see how we get on. Slange, skål. Yeah. I have to say, that is a pretty nice beer. One of the things that this brewery say in their website is that they really focus on trying to make beer that pairs very, very well with food, and I can see that right away with this one. This beer, the other thing I'm going to say about this one is the first bit of the aftertaste you get. This beer is a hell of a lot more roasty and black than you would expect from the aroma. I had the impression with this one it was going to have a little bit of that, but really this is one of these beers where it starts off nice and big and then it really dries out the further you go into the aftertaste. It's really interesting, that. Yeah, I do like how this goes together. Actually, this is a really interesting one. I mean, porters are meant to be a little bit lighter and easier to drink, of course, than stouts and things like that. The English porter is basically the equivalent of the German Schwarzbier or the Czech Tmavy. But with this one, I like that, how it goes together. This beer is quite different from its aroma. In fairness, this one I was thinking this would be quite a sweet porter. But it's a little bit more, I don't know if you can correctly describe this one as a robust porter, but it's definitely one of the more dry porters that I've come across. So the first thing you're going to notice about this beer is right across the middle of the palate, it's got a nice smoothness to it, but really embedded within that, you've got these roasty black malt elements. It's a really interesting base that this beer has. As I say, it's quite smooth, and it's definitely got a bit of that sort of almost bready quality to it. But at the same time, you've got those little elements of roasty and black malt just kind of sticking their head above the water, actually. But yeah, in the beginning, you start to get the nice you really start to get the nice chocolatey notes. In the middle of your palate, there's definitely a nice kind of chocolatey flavour to this one. It's somewhere in the middle of a milky chocolate and a dark chocolate. I'm guessing it'll be somewhere around the sort of 40–50% kind of cocoa mark, and in the very, very centre of your palate you can pick out just a little touch of a brown sugary note, and that'll be from the caramel that they've got in here. You can really pick that out, and that'll be the thing that's kind of covering up the alcohol, of course. But the further and further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, the more and more the middle of your palate dries out and it leans towards that roasty, toasty side of things. But again, the roasty, toasty side of this beer is really nice. It's very, very smooth, actually, and I suspect that that'll be because of the carafa malt that they've used in here. Carafa malt, if I'm remembering correctly, was developed by Weiermann in Bamberg in Germany, and their malts are really, really distinctive. They give you this lovely big smoothness, actually, to the beers, and you really notice that. I've got a good friend who lives in Bamberg, who I've mentioned a couple of times on the channel. He's been in a few videos, and we've been to the Weiermann factory. And you always find with their malts, they're just ridiculously smooth, and I'm wondering if it is Weiermann Carafa that they've used in here, because I've had a number of Schwarzbiers and things like that use the Weiermann Carafa and that smoothness. This beer is really interesting, as I say, because it's an English style, but it has that German smoothness to it. So it's it's quite funny, that, actually, because normally the porter and the Schwarzbier and the Tmavy, the Czech Tmavy, of course, is very closely related to the German Schwarzbier. But it's quite strange to have a beer that to have an English style beer, but with that that German smoothness to it. But I mean, the main question should be whether it's a good beer or not, and I like this one. I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. You can see what they're going for here. This is one of these beers, by no means is it going to, blow the head off you in terms of flavour and things like that, or bitterness or whatever. This one is one of these beers. It's a sort of food pairing, a restaurant type beer, and that's what they say on their website that they are actually all about. So I can see that, you know, this one would go quite nicely with like a steak or something like that, or it would go. I mean, it's maybe not heavy enough to be a dessert beer, right enough. But yeah, if you had a nice sort of a nice steak that you've done on the grill or something like that, this beer would go quite nicely with that. It'd actually go very nicely with kangaroo meat. Is what I'm thinking. I always enjoyed cooking kangaroo with my uncle out in Australia. But yeah, it would really go nicely with sort of kangaroo or more gamey meats like deer and things like that. That's what I think this beer would pair really nicely with. When you come a little bit further forward on the palate with this one too, you can pick out that there's a little bit of a woody quality to this one. It's not nutty, there's maybe a teensy little bit of nutty quality to this one, but it is a little bit more woody towards the front of the palate. The hoppy side of things again is very distinctively German. I mean, in the back corners of the palate you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of your tongue, it's a little bit more kind of herbal, I would say. You get a little touch of the herbal quality is actually quite minimal. It is mainly earthy actually, just with a teeny little bit of herbal quality in there. But as you come further forward towards the front corners of the palate, you get a little bit of that typical sort of floral aromaticity, that nice noble quality, and then round the very front curve of the palate, you've got a very nice lighter kind of grassy aspect to the beer, and behind the front curve of the palate, you've got that little oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And for me, the fruity side of things is quite interesting with this one. It has a little bit of a sharpness when you come into it in the beginning. So you've got a little bit of a sharpness. I don't know. It's not quite plums or anything like that. It's more of a, I don't know. It's more of a kind of berryish sharpness. And the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, you get a little bit of a kind of candied red fruit ester out of this. It reminds me of the little heart-shaped sweets you get in Haribo Star Mix. There's maybe a little bit of an almost black curranty or you know, blackberry-ish note to this one, but it's a sort of candied strawberry-ish candied blackberry type flavour that you get for this one on the fruity side of things. But as I say, the real focus of the aftertaste in this one is that smoothness. It's the carafa malt for me that's really kind of shining on this one. I do like how that all goes together. But yeah, this is a really nice porter, this one. As I say, it's kind of unusual because of how German it is, and the porter obviously is a style that originated around London. But yeah, I do like how this one goes together. I don't know if you could argue that this is actually more of a Schwarzbier than it is a porter, but I like what they've done with this, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. As I say, you could pair this quite nicely with a nice kind of grilled beef steak or something like that. It would be really quite nice. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say that this beer is I would say that this beer is fairly light-bodied, this one. The carbonation is very smooth. It's got quite a nice wetness to the mouthfeel, actually. The malt base is a good balance between smoothness and the roastiness, but there is a little touch of sweetness there. I'm finding, again, the more and more I drink of this beer, you can actually pick up your mouth kind of adjusts a little bit, and you get a little bit more of the sweetness the further into the aftertaste you go with this one. There's a little bit of hoppy bitterness. I would think that this beer is somewhere around the, maybe the 40-ish IBU mark, 50 at a push. I think it's more around the 40 IBU mark though. And you've got a little touch of a juicy fruitiness to this one overall. But yeah, this is a nice beer, this one. It certainly keeps me interested in this brewery and makes me want to try a few of their other ones. The surprising thing about this beer, as I said, is it's an English style, but how German it is. And I'm a huge fan of German beer, having lived in Germany and studied in Germany for a little bit of time. So yeah, I really like how this one has come across. So I certainly will try a couple of their other beers over the next little while. I'll keep an eye on this prototype series, and I'll have a look at some of the core ones and see exactly what I'd like to try. But yeah, if you get the chance to try this one and you like your porters to be kind of smooth but also a little bit roasty and toasty, then I think this is one that will tick the boxes for you. But yeah, let's leave it at that for just now. A really nice porter beer, this one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. So yeah, have a go at it for yourself and just see what you think. So this was the prototype number 2 from Halmstad Brygghus, the Promenad Porter, a really nice smooth beer this one, and I was glad that I was able to review this for you. My first encounter with this brewery, but I can tell you it certainly won't be the last. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Halmstad Brygghus as well, and you will see me review more from these guys over the next little while. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out my social media and make sure you have a go with some of these beers. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål.